feels so good right now. Could it make this good right
Take the ego, here we go. I need a Winnebago, like I need another hole in my head. I went loco to go doses of my no-dose, feeling like I'm never in bed. Just don't hate me, 'cause lately I've been a little shaky. Hiding out in this happy meal. Oh, I like you, you like me. Let's try and see it through. Then we'll know if it's for real. Oh, everybody rise. So we'll love the prize. Better pay your dues. All the children rise. It's back.
Good to be back.
Are you going to try that? Try it. Hey, Sam. Hey, Sam. As the cold wind blows your mind out to sea. This is a solo song of mine from my record. I'll leave the light on, also the table, and it goes like this. As the cold wind blows your mind out to sea, you inhale, and the sunset's doing numbers with the beach. You pop the sails, in your heart you know that it ain't right. Back away, and you're getting ready for a fight. You fail. Every night there's a war. on the strength of a fleet. Spider me, right to the chorus. Every night is a war. To know what we're fighting for. There's an elevator stopping on every floor. Double. There's only two of us on board. Don't really have room for more. Well, you never know what the tide will bring to that shore. There's an elevator stopping on every floor. Woo! Misha calling! He's on it! Yeah! Come and make it alright! Did you get everything taken care of?
I was just on the phone with my friend Darius, who you know, and he was like just getting into the emotional part of a story, you know, and then I was like, Misha Collins. I was like, hey man, I gotta go back. I don't care about your feelings.
That's a good friend.
Which I didn't say that because I didn't have time, but that emotion got across.
Right, no, he knows. He's not, you're not the person to go to. Well, we like that you've made us your priority.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Indianapolis, Misha Collins.
Does anyone have anything that they want to talk about? Any questions or comments or criticisms, complaints? Yes.
I just wanted to know what you could tell us about your new role on Gotham Knights.
Well, I can tell you that I am playing Harvey Dent, which is a character from the Batman universe who becomes Two-Face. And I had a little bit of compunction about that because I know my ex will be like, yeah, fitting role. That actually did cross my mind. I was like, I don't want somebody to have such an easy insult for the rest of my life. But I am, we're shooting the pilot right now, and Warner Brothers seems to be putting a lot into the pilot. It's great. It seems like it has a great team behind it. Like for example, our costume designer did Handmaid's Tale. We have some like really top shelf people on the project, and then if it gets picked up and turned into a series, which would be really cool, my character will be Harvey Dent for the whole first year. So I have a nice long stretch of not being Two-Faced. And then I become Two-Face. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And I'll be the old person on the show. Which now that I think about it is what it was on the last show. Maybe I've been typecast. And there is there's a coat. It's not quite a trench coat. I was like, can we make it even less of a trench coat than what that is? Because I really am trying to branch out into anything but trench coats.
We are looking forward to it as well.
Oh, well, thank you for saying that. What's happening?
Question, I'm sorry.
Why are you asking?
I am the girl that had the wings for you.
Oh, thank you. The wooden wings that you made. Yes.
I think that you are a true angel to us. I think your work with charity is just so amazing, and I know you are working on this new project. You have a lot going on in your life, but I was wondering if you had any new ideas with charities that were coming up.
One of the things that has been wonderful for me in the last few years is the capacity that we've had to collaborate between Gish and Random Acts to do something that I've been calling gamifying good. So we're integrating charitable activities into our scavenger hunt, and that has been unbelievably satisfying. So we've been working a lot with this guy, Giles Dooley, who is a war photographer. He goes into conflict zones, often the aftermath of conflicts, and documents the horrors of war. And he himself stepped on a landmine and lost 2 legs and an arm, and still travels 300 days out of the year to far-flung corners of the world where people are enduring the most horrific suffering. And he's just telling their stories and basically trying to convey a pretty compelling message, which is, what the hell are we doing, humans? We need to stop having wars. We need to get past that. So fittingly, Giles did his first assignment as a war photographer before his accident in Ukraine 20 years ago. And he knows so many people. Some of the people that he documented when he first went there have recently been killed in the fighting. And because he has severe physical limitations from having been stepped on a landmine, he's also very dialed into the community of people who are activists who are also suffering from disabilities. So we're doing a project with him right now, furnishing Ukrainian refugees with wheelchairs and other needed devices, and it feels great to be able to just help in some small way. These things are always complicated for me because I don't think that nonprofits should be saddled with the responsibility of solving these big structural problems, like the horrors of war or refugee crises. But at the same time, everyone needs to do what they can, and this is one way that we can do a little more. So that's it's been really gratifying to be able to parlay. To be honest with you, it all started with seeing the creativity in this fandom. But maybe we could channel some of that energy into like collective action that has some positive benefit in the world.
Thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you kindly.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Krisha.
Hi, Christian. I can't see you, but I hear you.
I'm here, I promise.
Hi.
So you've talked lately about how you prefer to not dwell in the past and you want to just keep moving forward. And I was wondering how...
Ironic that you're talking about what I have been saying in the past.
Yeah.
We're really dwelling on it now.
Well, I was curious how you experience conventions now that the show is over. Do you consider supernatural to be in your past, or is it still your present?
So your message is like, if you genuinely don't dwell in the past, why are you clinging to vestiges of your former career so pathetically?
Or some validation that you still love us and this is still fun.
Oh, glad that you made it about you and not about me. You know, it's very interesting. I think that there's so many different things that we do in life that are codified without our ever realizing it. Like, there's so many expectations of how a quote-unquote celebrity is supposed to interact with their quote-unquote fans, how fan conventions are supposed to run. And then I think even within the supernatural cast, there was a little bit of compunction for us. Like, when the show was over, we all kind of thought, like, are we gonna really keep doing these? Because isn't that kind of like clinging to your glory days? Like, isn't that a little sad? Isn't that like The Wrestler? Like, you're showing up and there's 10 people there and they don't actually want your autograph, they're there for somebody else, but you're there anyway. But the truth is, I think in the Supernatural cast, I can tell you, I think we're all like, I don't know why. I mean, maybe I shouldn't feel bad about this, but I'm excited to go back to do these. I'm excited to go see these people. There's a somewhat strange dynamic in this particular fandom where the show is on for so fucking long that people watching it watched us grow up And they also kind of felt like we were their family because we were around so much, whether they liked it or not. We were always there on TNT. And so now I think that there's this weird kind of feeling of almost like a family reunion that's fun. It's fun for us. And it feels like a community that doesn't have to go away just because the show went away. Feels like maybe this is a community that can, you know, morph and adapt. You know, at some point, you know, maybe I'll be talking about Harvey Dent more. And, you know, Jensen will be talking about what it's like to zoom into one of these events from prison. And we'll have different chapters in our lives, and we'll all just go along with it, you know?
Hi. I'm a costumer and a cosplayer, and as much as I love your iconic suit and trench coat look, I was wondering which of your non-suit and trench coat looks as Castiel was your favorite?
I had other looks. Hippie Cass? Oh, I know the correct answer. It's Misha. It's funny because at the time that we shot, it was the French mistake, and at the time we shot that, I had amassed a very small collection of quite vibrant sweaters that I would sometimes wear to work. And they were like, you know, what would be funny is like we sort of riff on the fact that you're funny sweaters. And then they gave me this like very vibrant, very thick sweater with patterning on it, blue, black, and white. And when wardrobe like put it on, I was like, well, that's actually it's quite a nice sweater. Where'd you get this? I would like to get another one for myself. So I have a couple of those sweaters, which I sometimes unironically wear. So there you go.
What was your favorite thing about Supernatural?
What was my favorite thing about Supernatural? I think my favorite thing about Supernatural was, my favorite thing about working on Supernatural was laughing. We just laughed a lot on set. It was kind of endless. And sometimes I wanted to stop laughing and I couldn't. That was hard, but the camaraderie and the fun that we had shooting was my favorite part. I have never worked on, you know, I had not previously worked on another set that felt like that, and I hope to find that in the future, but that was my favorite part about working on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, how are you?
Hey, I'm Jamie.
Hi.
And I was wondering, since we all love your poetry so much, if you plan on writing any short stories.
I don't have any immediate plans to write any short stories. Do you write short stories?
No.
Cool. You know, it's interesting. I really have not written a lot of, well, I've written a couple of screenplays, but I haven't written a lot of fiction in prose form, and I feel like I don't have a lot of confidence about it, because I just don't have a lot of practice. So the answer is no. But I'd love to try.
Well, we would love whatever you wrote. You should know.
Well, that's pretty undiscriminating.
Be like, oh, you wrote the alphabet.
That's good to know. Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because my publisher, for my poetry book, I went out to, we were in Kansas City and their offices are based in Kansas City. We were in Kansas City for a convention, and I went out to lunch with, you know, like 4 of the executives from the publisher. And they sat down and at lunch and they were like, so we have to tell you something. We probably would have published your book if it was total garbage. But we read it and it was actually pretty good. So it's nice to have that validation from you too, that you would read anything and it doesn't matter. Makes me feel super confident. So, yeah. Hi.
Jason, this is my...
Wait, I lost you for a second. Say that again. Jason?
Yes.
Hi, Jason.
This is my first convention.
How's it going?
It's going pretty well.
There's a little hesitation in your voice. Uh-oh. Mike fell. Everything's falling apart. I can't believe you did that on your first convention.
Okay, sorry about that. Anyway, first I just want to say I'm a big fan of your poetry book. I think you do a really good job of conveying emotion without getting too wordy. You're very concise and great word choice.
It's all my practice on Twitter.
It's very good. But my question is, just with all these years interacting with fans, what is the kind of scariest or most weird or strangest interaction that you've ever had with fans?
Well, you really, the scariest and weirdest are maybe not the same. I don't know if those of you in the back of the room heard that, but I'm unable to repeat what that woman said, but it did bring back a flood of horrific memories. There have been a few. Well, there's some unhinged people that show up online every once in a while, and make statements that are kind of terrifying, like "come kill you and your family." That's kind of scary. What's that? You've got my back. So you're gonna be at my house protecting me. How does that work exactly? Now that's the second scariest thing.
Don't worry, man. I'm never, ever gonna let you out of my sight. I've got you. And your kids. I'm watching them too. Right now. By the way, do you think I should tell Wes to go to sleep? He's up really late. Making me worried.
You got a new voice just now, by the way. Yeah, I don't know. It's funny. There have been so many different. I mean, most of the interactions are so lovely, and there's this weird thing like this. I was talking about these like codified dynamics, like these weird dynamics that people tend to have between like actors and fans, where it's just like there's very standoffish. You don't get to know anything about me. I don't want to know anything about you. Don't touch me in the photo ops. Although now we do that too. But I think for the most part it's all just fine, and everybody has a very balanced understanding of what's really going on in the dynamic. And then every once in a while there are people that don't understand that this is a quote-unquote parasocial dynamic where I don't know you really that well, but you know me, and sometimes people are like, I've been getting the messages you've been sending me in your tweets. And I left my husband and my kids, and I'm here now for you. So there are some things like that are a little bit a little scary and a little bit hard to process. I was in Russia, where it turns out Supernatural's so fucking popular. And it was, I went there for Moscow Comic-Con, and it was the first Comic-Con that they were doing in Moscow. And they invited me to come, and I was like, oh, cool, yeah. And we were shooting Supernatural, so I actually had to fly to Moscow from Vancouver for the weekend, which, as it turns out, is a bad idea at the outset. And I got there, and I was so tired. And I got to the event, and there were 120,000 people there, and I was the only actor at the Comic-Con. And it was like, they had those like barricades that they would have at like a, Britney Spears concert or something. It was like those linked together metal barricades in front of the stage, and they knocked it down and like people started getting trampled. And the ex-KGB guys that they had as my security guards came and carried me off the stage. It was crazy. There were 250 people outside of my hotel the whole time I was there. Well, about 2 nights I was there. But yeah, so there's things like that that are kind of scary, but kind of awesome. Okay.
Hi, Misha. My daughter is 13. She actually is the one who won the lottery, but she is super nervous and kind of freaked out. So I'm reading the question for her.
The lottery. I was like, she won the lottery?
Right?
Can 13-year-olds win the lottery?
So here's her question. Could you feel a difference on your first day to the last day on set? And if so, could you try to describe it for us?
Where is your daughter?
Right here.
Oh.
This is her.
Oh, you're not gonna get away with this. What's your name? Gemma? Jenna, congratulations on winning the lottery. What are you gonna do with all the money? Well, it's nice to have somebody here to translate for you. Where are you from?
Texas.
How long of a drive was it? Did you drive?
4 hours?
Oh, well that's not so bad. Well, I'm glad you made it. I like all of your accessories there. Yeah, I see that's me. Okay, well, I will tell you this. It was, when I first got on the show, it was, I had watched one episode and thought it would be just like a silly little guest star spot, and they told me that I was an angel, so I did this like weird, spooky angel character, which, as it turns out, on Supernatural, they had already had a lot of supernatural characters like demons and Wendigos and things like that, and mostly they were portrayed by people who were basically like regular people. And then I came and I did my angel thing, and everyone was like, we don't really do that on the show. So on the first day, I think I really didn't fit in at all. And actually, we did the first day of shooting, and we shot that first, my scene. We shot most of the scene. And then we came back the next day, and the director, who was also the producer, Kim Manners, he said, we're gonna shoot some of that again, because they watched the footage and they didn't like what they got, which, by the way, never happens on Supernatural. They're usually like, it's fine, we'll work with it. He said, yeah, no, can you try to be less spooky? And so we shot it again, and I tried to be less spooky. That was the first direction that I got on Supernatural. And the character never really fit in. Like, he was always a misfit and an outsider and was kind of awkward, but it actually ended up being the thing about the character that made him last, really. Like, he was an outsider and a misfit and wanted so badly to fit in and wanted so badly to help. And I think so many of us identify with that, right? Like, that's how I feel most of the time. So, you know, in a sense, that like awkwardness of the first day on set ended up being, I think, part of what made that character lovable in the end. It was an accident, really. There were some big transitions for me over the course of the show, and one of them was like, I think about just stepping into adulthood for myself. I went from feeling like I didn't really belong. This is like a little bit of self-psychology. I went from feeling like I didn't really belong to feeling like I deserved to take up a little bit of space. In a sense, that happened to me as an actor and a collaborator on that project, but also just as a person in the world. I sort of grew up. I mean, you know, it's a long time. And I went from you know, being quite insecure and unsure to feeling like, oh, maybe I have a contribution to make here. You know, still insecure, but maybe there's something I can offer. And that felt, that I think is like one of the best things about growing up. And maybe, hopefully, you have that to look forward to too. You know? Thank you.
Hi, Misha.
Hi.
My name is Riley.
Hi, Riley.
This is my first convention.
Oh my God, how many people is this a first convention for? Oh my God, that's amazing. You're a little late to the party. The show's been over for 2 years.
Gotta thank quarantine.
Nice to have you all here, newbies. Nice to have you here. Yes, welcome to the cult.
Hi, Amy from Texas. My question is, I feel like I've watched the show through like 4 total times, and I feel like I know your characters really well, but I'd really like to know just something interesting or fun, maybe from your childhood or about you as a person, Misha Collins, that we might find interesting.
Wow. Good luck with that. Do you want to give me any more of a something interesting? Here's a little tip for you, and I find this to be true with my kids. They'll always say, "Dad, tell a story about something funny," and I can't think of a damn thing. Like, it's a little too broad. So if you narrow in with a little bit of specificity, like, tell me something interesting about you. I don't know, let's try it. Tell me something interesting about you.
I am a second-generation bakery owner. My family's, I was raised in a...
How do you immediately have an answer to the question? My brain just goes...
I played softball, fast pitch softball for 12 years. I don't know.
All right.
Something that you can't read on Wiki, you know?
Okay. I was raised by a single mother. We spent a lot of time in the woods. We lived in a tent for good chunks of my childhood. We had a lot of exceptional adventures. I'll tell you something about myself. I have recently I used to frame my childhood in my own framing of my past, just to dwell on the past like I do. I used to frame my childhood as being just awesome, because it was so full of adventures, and it made me quite unafraid of a lot of things in life, and also made me feel like, you know, we were very poor, we were often homeless, we would hitchhike places, like we hitchhiked to school sometimes, or sometimes our car wasn't working and I would just walk through the woods 5 miles to get to school because I knew a shortcut. And I think all of those things like built so much character for me in a lot of really great ways, and I wouldn't change a thing. But then at some point when I had kids, I started being like, oh my God, I would never do that to my children. Sure, go walk 5 miles through the woods, good luck, kid. And I realized, like, then I had this sort of moment of realization, like, oh, actually a lot of that was probably really hard for me and kind of traumatizing. And some of the things that I do as an adult are a response to like that kind of trauma. There was a lot of like scary stuff and times when we actually didn't feel totally safe and didn't know where our next meal was going to come from. And I didn't have a shower for a long, like our own, I had to like go have slumber parties at other kids' houses just to get a shower. And so I started seeing that as like, oh, that was really hard. And then I recently had this is something you won't see on Wiki. Just last month I had a conversation with my mom where it was kind of like the first time that I really expressed like, you know, Mom, I think like a lot of that was really hard for me. And she said something to me which I just wasn't expecting, which was, oh, I'm sorry. And it was so nice. It was so nice to have that moment of connection about something that had, you know, started to take on a life of its own in my own mind. And then she shared with me a lot of things that she never told me about how hard her childhood was. And it has made me realize that that I've been like very guarded about a lot of things in my life. And really good things can happen about just taking some of those barriers down. So I'm trying to do that more in my life, but I haven't posted about that on my wiki at all. So there you go.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Hi, my name is
Hi.
Becky. So my question is, if you, Misha, could be friends with any of the characters from Supernatural, who would you want to be friends with?
Cass?
That's the obvious.
You didn't say that, Nick. You can't change the rules. I don't know. It's funny. I think probably there's certain characters that I felt like I liked hanging out with. I think Sam and Dean were a little rough, like a little. They really like to go kill things, which is not my vibe. Yeah, I don't know. Charlie, I liked Charlie. What about you? Who would you like to hang out with?
Definitely Charlie or Dean.
I see. Basically opposites. Yeah. What is it about Dean that you would like? I cannot imagine wanting to hang out with that guy.
In rewatching all the seasons, I kind of am seeing more of myself in Dean, so I feel like we would get along a lot better than like me and Sam would, or
I see.
I don't know.
So you see yourself as sort of like the archetypal hero.
Someone who I would like to be, yes.
Huh.
I would like to be a hero. I would like to be, all the good things that he is.
I do. There are definitely things about Sam and Dean that I like, and character traits that I like. And I'll be honest with you, I think that I have occasionally thought about that as Misha, and thought like, you should probably try to be more like that. You should try to be more like Dean. Suck it up and just like don't complain. Fight on. You got this. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Powers.
Hi, Powers.
Thank you. My question is about kind of segueing from you talking about short stories. There's a great way to practice short stories that the fandom does a lot. So my question is I'm not leading you into anything bad. Would you prefer to write a story about a two-person love triangle or a fake dating story? Just wondering.
You know, it's funny, I've actually wrestled with this question a lot. And I always toggle between the two because it would be so much fun to write a story about fake dating. Which is what? What's a fake date?
So it's like, for example, in the realm of Supernatural, you go on a case, but you need to pretend to be a couple, but then by the end of the story, you actually end up realizing you have feelings for each other. That's where that goes.
Do you know what she's... Is this a thing? Really? That's a trope? What other tropes are there? Never mind. Fake, do you know about this?
No, what is it?
I just learned something very, she said, sorry, he, she, I don't know.
Any viewer's choice.
Would you rather write, what was the first part?
The first one is a two-person love triangle.
A two-person love triangle.
Okay.
Is that a thing?
That's still a love? Is that a triangle?
Yes,
Is that a trope?
it's basically where two people are into each other, but they're communicating with each other in two different ways, so they don't know they're talking to the same person, and they feel guilty for being in love with the same person twice.
I'm with you.
Pieces of my brain up off the floor.
Mind blown.
That's,
And then the other, the old cat, would
Okay.
rather do a two-person love triangle,
okay.
which is still math that doesn't
Yeah,
quite add up.
that's not my kind of geometry.
Or would you rather write, and you can do whichever one you want.
Okay.
Or would you rather write a fake dating story? And a fake dating story, you know what that is. I don't pretend you don't know. So fake dating story is when you go in, like you're doing a case, say Sam and Dean are going in, or no, that's a bad example.
Misha, careful.
Sam and Cass are going in to do they're going in to do a case, and they pretend to be dating instead of being FBI agents on this one. They pretend that they're dating.
Okay.
And then over the course of the solving of the case, they actually start falling for each other.
Okay.
And then in the end, Sam is on top of Castiel licking his face.
Oh, that happened quick.
But so I was like, wait, is that a thing? And apparently it's a trope which half of the people in this room not only know about, but write themselves.
Oh. No.
And now that makes me wonder, what are the other tropes? And that's when I put my fingers in my ear.
Yeah.
And I realized that's a slippery slope and I don't want to go down it.
Yeah.
Or do I?
Well, I don't know. Let's go down together. I'm sure that's a trope, which is another trope. Yeah, there will now be some /fiction written about the comment that you just made. Wow. Fun.
Yeah, and it'll be a new trope.
Okay, that's nice to know that I invented a new trope.
Let's go down together.
Sure.
Listen, I respect you for walking out right now. Good choice. Seriously? We all wish we were doing what you're doing right now. Stay strong.
Always cutting edge. Bringing the trope back into trope. Indianapolis.
Putting the nope in trope.
Yeah, putting in the nope in trope. Misha Collins.
This is gonna be great. This is gonna be awesome. The doors open, Jared takes off. I go.